Imagine this. You're lying next to someone who knows your favorite song, your childhood wounds, the exact way you take your coffee, and yet, something feels painfully absent. The room is quiet, but not peaceful. Intimacy surrounds you, but meaning doesn't. You're close, yet strangely alone. Here's the paradox. Never in history has love been more accessible, more talked about, more optimized, yet never has it felt so hollow. You can swipe through thousands of faces, exchange confessions with strangers, say, "I love you," in a matter of weeks. And still, a quiet numbness settles in, like love has lost its weight. Why does connection feel thinner the more options you have? Why does commitment feel suffocating, while freedom feels empty? Why do relationships end? Not in explosive tragedy, but in exhaustion, boredom, or a vague sense of something's missing. You were promised that love would complete you, that the right person would make you whole. So why does it feel like modern love asks you to disappear instead, to soften your edges, hide your depths, become easier to digest? Perhaps the problem isn't that love fails. Perhaps it's that something essential has been quietly removed, and we haven't dared to name it yet. The hidden problem and its psychological and philosophical roots. What you're feeling isn't personal failure. It's structural. Modern love feels empty because it's built on a foundation that quietly contradicts human psychology. At its core, love has been reduced to an exchange of validation, pleasure, security, identity. You don't just ask, "Do I love this person?" You ask, often unconsciously, "What do they give me? How do they make me feel about myself?" And the moment the return diminishes, doubt creeps in. Carl Jung warned that when we fail to individuate, when we don't confront our shadow, our wounds, our unmet longings, we project them onto others. In modern love, partners become mirrors for unresolved inner chaos. You don't seek connection. You seek completion. You don't want to love. You want to be saved. Friedrich Nietzsche saw this coming. He argued that modern humans, stripped of transcendent meaning, would turn love into a substitute religion. When God, purpose, and shared values collapse, romance inherits an impossible burden. One person is asked to provide meaning, excitement, healing, identity, and purpose. No human can survive that demand. Arthur Schopenhauer was even more cynical. He believed love was driven by blind biological forces, disguising survival instincts as romance. Strip away illusion, and disillusionment follows. Modern society, obsessed with demystification and control, accelerates this collapse. Nothing sacred is allowed to remain mysterious for long. Add to this a culture shaped by consumerism. Aldous Huxley warned of a future where desire is endlessly stimulated but never fulfilled. Love becomes another product, optimized, compared, reviewed. When novelty fades, you assume the product is defective, not the system. Jean-Paul Sartre described love as a struggle between freedom and possession. Modern relationships promise both. Be free, but don't change. Be yourself, but don't threaten me. This contradiction breeds quiet resentment. The hidden problem is this. Modern love is asked to function without depth, sacrifice, or confrontation with the self, and something that shallow cannot nourish. Something as complex as the human soul. But the cost of this hollow structure doesn't reveal itself immediately. It shows up slowly in how you relate, how you desire, how you detach without even realizing why. The unseen consequences. When love is hollow, it doesn't collapse loudly. It erodes quietly through habits, expectations, and subtle emotional withdrawals that feel normal because everyone else is doing the same. You start to crave intensity instead of intimacy. Your brain, wired by novelty and dopamine, confuses excitement with connection. Neurochemically, constant stimulation trains you to associate love with emotional spikes, not emotional depth. When a spike fades, as it always does, you interpret calm as death. Boredom becomes a threat. Stability feels like loss. Cognitive biases seal the trap. The grass is greener effect convinces you that something better is always one swipe away. The hedonic treadmill. ensures that whatever once thrilled you soon feels insufficient. And choice overload paralyzes commitment, because choosing one means killing infinite alternatives. You don't leave because something is wrong. You leave because something might be better. Culturally, you're conditioned to avoid discomfort at all costs. Yet depth requires friction. Love demands that you confront jealousy, insecurity, dependency, and fear, precisely the emotions modern culture teaches you to suppress, medicate, or rationalize away. So instead of growing through conflict, you disengage, you ghost, you emotionally detach, while staying physically present. Over time, this shapes identity. You become hyper-independent, emotionally armored, fluent in detachment. You pride yourself on needing no one. But beneath that armor sits a quieter truth. You've learned to desire, without risking yourself, to connect without surrender, to love without being seen. Societally, the consequences multiply. Relationships become shorter, shallower, more transactional. People speak of love cynically, not because they don't want it, but because repeated disappointment has taught them to expect less. Intimacy turns performative. Vulnerability becomes a liability. The most dangerous consequence isn't heartbreak. It's numbness. Because numbness feels safe. It doesn't ache. It doesn't demand courage. And once you accept numbness as normal, you stop asking the most important question of all: what would love require of me if I stopped protecting myself? That question is avoided for a reason. Because answering it would demand rebellion, not against others, but against everything you've been taught to believe about love, comfort, and freedom. The rebellion: how to break free. Breaking free doesn't begin by finding the right person. That belief is the final illusion. The rebellion begins when you realize modern love fails because it asks for connection without transformation. And that kind of love has no gravity. The radical shift is this: love is not meant to make you comfortable. It is meant to make you conscious. Jung believed that real relationship is one of the primary arenas of individuation, the painful, necessary process of becoming whole. Love exposes the shadow faster than solitude ever could. Your jealousy, control, withdrawal, resentment. These are not signs of incompatibility. They are invitations, signals pointing toward unintegrated parts of yourself that demand attention. Modern culture tells you to leave when discomfort appears. The rebellion is to stay and see, not blindly, not self-destructively, but consciously. To ask, what is this triggering in me? What part of myself is being revealed? This alone transforms love from consumption into initiation. Historically, the deepest bonds were forged not through constant happiness, but shared meaning. Viktor Frankl observed that humans can endure immense suffering if it serves a purpose. Love once existed within larger frameworks: duty, ritual, faith, shared struggle. Today, stripped of these containers, love floats without structure. The rebellion is to rebuild meaning intentionally. This requires counterintuitive moves: choosing depth over chemistry, commitment over optimization, presence over performance, silence over constant communication. It means resisting the urge to narrate your relationship to the world and instead inhabiting it privately, imperfectly, honestly. It also means reclaiming polarity, allowing difference, tension, mystery. Modern love suffocates under forced sameness. True connection survives because two distinct individuals meet without dissolving each other. As Nietzsche warned, love dies when it becomes mutual dependency disguised as unity. Most importantly, the rebellion demands responsibility. Sartre insisted that freedom without responsibility is self-deception. To love deeply is to accept that you will wound and be wounded, not because love is broken, but because you are human. When you stop using love to escape yourself, something extraordinary happens. The emptiness recedes, not because love becomes easy, but because it becomes real, and that prepares you for the final realization, one that reframes everything you thought you were searching for in love in the first place. The ultimate truth, the final, most powerful realization. Here is the truth that modern love avoids at all costs. Love does not exist to complete you. It exists to reveal you. The emptiness you feel was never proof that love is failing. It was evidence that you were asking love to do the work only you could do, to fill the void of identity, to numb existential fear, to give meaning where none had been consciously chosen. Love cannot carry that weight without collapsing into resentment, dependency, or indifference. When you stop demanding that love save you, it changes form. It becomes less intoxicating, but more alive, less dramatic, but more dangerous. Because now love mirrors you. Without distortion, it forces you to stand naked before another human being, without scripts, performances, or guarantees. This is why modern love feels frightening when it becomes real. Real love threatens the ego. It dismantles illusions of control. It exposes the cost of freedom. You are no longer a consumer of affection. You are a participant in becoming. Schopenhauer believed suffering was inevitable. Nietzsche believed suffering could be transformed. Love is where that transformation becomes possible, not through pleasure, but through meaning. Through choosing someone not because they erase your loneliness, but because they intensify your presence. The final realization is this: emptiness disappears not when you find the perfect partner, but when you bring a whole self into the relationship. Two incomplete people seeking completion create dependence. Two conscious individuals create tension, depth, and growth. Love was never meant to feel easy. In a world that avoids self-confrontation, it was meant to be a mirror sharp enough to cut through illusion. And when you finally accept that, when you stop searching for love to fill you and allow it to expose you, you don't feel empty anymore. You feel awake.